All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to go over the power rankings that were released this week, and I will give you my thoughts on those. So let's get right into that. Um, so obviously, what I do with it normally is, of course, I go through the ones that were released on NFL.com. I go through them, and I give you my thoughts on what I agree with, what I disagree with. So let's get right into that. So we obviously always start at the bottom, and I always say I'm going to try to, make my way through them quickly, but I end up not doing that, and then I have to talk about the final the top five teams fast. So let's try to avoid that once again. So at 32, you got the Panthers, who did pick up a win, so that was at least for them, you get a win. And you could at least feel good about yourself after this week. But yeah, I mean, still 2-12, rough season for them. They did only score 3 field goals, but they still ended up winning. The defense did its job against the Falcons, and that's why the Falcons are, have their quarterback issues. I mean, now Taylor Heineke is going to be getting the start this week. So, so they're at 32. The Commanders are at 31. They're 4-10. CJ Stroud, Sam Howell did not finish the game. You had Jacoby Brissett come in, and he actually didn't do that bad against the Rams. He actually, found Terry McLaurin for a touchdown. Terry McLaurin actually had a very good game on Sunday. So I don't know what is going to happen if Jacoby Brissett could be starting against the Jets this week. I mean, I don't think there's been any news on that. Actually, let's check. Let's check Sleeper, the fantasy app, and see if there's anything. I mean, because he had like over 100 yards passing, and that pretty much surpassed Howell's numbers. So let's see. It says okay. Yeah, so it says will remain the starter. Okay, all right. Yeah, so he will be getting the start against the Jets. So we'll move on then. 30, you got the Patriots. They lost to the Chiefs by 10 on Sunday. Zappe wasn't that bad in the first half, but obviously in the second half, not so much. We'll be playing against the Broncos, which I think they could win that game. Just I don't know. At least I think it's going to be close, but we'll see. Again, take the opposite, I guess, of me. At 29, we got the Cardinals. They got blown out by the 49ers. Not much really to say about that. They're 3-11. They're at 29. Giants at 28. Yeah, the Tommy DeVito's story, the trend. We kind of got back to reality with that, with how they played against the Saints. I mean, I did pick them just because I don't trust the Saints. But the Saints dominated the Giants from start to finish. They really just couldn't get anything going offensively. The offensive line was terrible for the Giants once again. So it's not all Tommy DeVito's fault, but at the same time, it's like, listen, the guy's a backup quarterback. That's what he is. So they're at 28. Chargers are at 27. I mean, that performance on Thursday against the Raiders, it was something else. But I guess, good for them that, they got Brandon Staley out of there. I guess that's what their goal was, because I did not expect that at all. 26, the Jets. I mean, another ugly performance. I mean, they didn't give up 60 points, but honestly, they probably should have, the way they played against the Dolphins on Sunday, losing 30-0. And we'll get into them in the next segment regarding their quarterback for next year. Titans at 25, losing that overtime game against the Texans. I mean, they had that game won. I mean, they were up 13-0 at one point, but they couldn't hold that lead. Will Levis actually got hurt in this game. I believe it was an ankle injury, so we might see Ryan Tannehill again. But yeah, I mean, you come off of that impressive win against the Dolphins, that comeback win against the Dolphins, and then you end up losing to the C.J. Stroudless Texans, who were also missing multiple starters besides him. But that's the NFL for you. Then at 24, you got the Bears. I mean, listen, their defense has been playing better. And they should have won this game against the Browns, but, the offense really didn't do anything in the second half. and they almost won it if Darnell Mooney holds on to that Hail Mary pass, but that ended up not happening. So yeah, they're at 24. Raiders at 23. They jumped up 5 spots on these power rankings. They're 6-8. And listen, I mean, I think Antonio Pierce definitely deserves consideration to maybe be their head coach for next year. I mean, I don't think that's crazy to say. Sorry, holding back a sneeze. Again, there's always like once or twice during a show where I have to do that. But yeah, so they're at 23, the Raiders. But yeah, Antonio Pierce, I mean, I think he deserves a chance at maybe coaching this team next year. Definitely has them playing better. They got a tough game against the Chiefs. They play the Broncos one more time. So we'll see what happens, and that's a home game too. So I think he's done a good job. They just need to get. I think they need to get a quarterback, and maybe improve that defense. Because they got talent on the offense. I mean, Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Renfro, and then you got Michael Mayer, the tight end. They got weapons on the offensive side. You got to get a better quarterback, and improve this defense to go along with Max Crosby, and this team might not be bad. So I don't know. I mean, it's easier said than done, but that's my opinion on that. So then you got the Falcons at 22. It's 6-8. QB controversy. It's Desmond Ridder, then it's Heineke, and then it's Desmond Ridder again. Then we're back to Heineke. That's another team that needs a quarterback. 21, you got the Saints, 7-7. Good win on Sunday against the Giants. Big game tomorrow night against the Rams. Looks like it's going to come down to the Bucs or the Saints for that division. Got the Steelers at 20. They went down 6 spots. I mean, that offense, it's a mess right now. And now you got Mason Rudolph starting on Saturday. I don't think it's going to get any better. I just can't really see this team putting up points. I just can't. They're Najee Harris is not running the football well, and they're not getting the ball to George Pickens. I mean, I don't know. It's a mess. Packers at 19. I mean, listen, they looked like they were well on their way to making the playoffs, and these last 2 games have been rough. Losing to the Giants and then letting Baker Mayfield have a perfect passer rating in Lambeau Field on Sunday. It's been a rough couple weeks for them. So we'll see if they can bounce back this week. But yeah, they're at 19. Vikings at 18. They're 7-7. I mean, they currently hold the playoff spot. But that was a tough loss for them on Saturday. Seahawks jumped up a couple spots to 17. That was a big win. I mean, I picked them to just cover, but they flat out won. And listen, you got the Steelers, you got the Titans coming up on your schedule. So yeah, you got some winnable games there. And then you got the Cardinals actually to finish off the year. So you can see the Seahawks maybe winning these last 3 games and getting in. So then you got the Rams who've been playing great. At 16. I mean, they're on a roll right now. And I give them a good shot to win tomorrow night against the Saints. They're playing well. So they're at 16. They've got the Bucs at 15. I actually think I'd put the Rams over the Bucs right now. But the Bucs right now are leading the division in the NFC South. They could be seeing the Jaguars without Trevor Lawrence. So if you can win that, you're in a much better spot. And then you play the Saints. So if the Bucs can win these next 2 games, I mean, I think they'd be a lock for the division. And then you'd be going up against the Panthers, which again could be dicey because it's a division matchup. And I don't want to jump the gun here because the Bucs could easily lose their next 2 games. I get optimistic with them, and then they let me down. So, but yeah, they're at 15. Broncos at 14. Blowout loss against the Lions is going to do that to you. The Colts are at 13. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. They should be getting Jonathan Taylor back, which should be huge. But I mean, they got bigger things to deal with now because the division. I mean, it's all tied up right now. So we'll see. Got the Bengals at 12. Impressive comeback win against the Vikings on Saturday. They might be without Jamar Chase going forward, but credit to Jake Browning and how he's been playing. So he's at 12. The Texans are at 11. I mean, that was a big overtime win against the Titans. With all the injuries they were dealing with, and now you get C.J. Stroud back hopefully this week, and you got a shot at this division. So we'll see. The Jags, they're at 10. It's going to be tough without Trevor Lawrence if they are without him, because if they're without him against the Bucs, I mean, with C.J. Beathard, yeah, I don't think they're going to win that game. Got the Browns at 9. I mean, you got to give Joe Flacco a lot of credit with what he's been able to do with the Browns. The defense, obviously, credit to them. Myles Garrett, obviously, up there for Defensive Player of the Year. Some people talking about MVP as well. Like I said, the Browns are in the best spot right now out of the wild card teams. The Bills are in the top 10. I mean, they deserve it. I mean, that was a huge win against the Cowboys. I mean, they just relied on James Cook. That's what they did, and it worked. If that continues, I mean, just keep doing it. Let Josh Allen take a back seat, save him for the playoffs. If they get there. But again, nobody's going to want to face this team if they get in. So we'll see. But they got 2 very winnable games these next 2 weeks against the Patriots and the Chargers. Chargers coming up on Saturday. So, the Bills, I think, are going to be in a really good spot in a couple weeks when they go up against the Dolphins in the final week of the regular season. Then you got the Lions at 7. They got back to their winning ways. Huge win over the Broncos to get to 10-4, and they could sniff that NFC North title. So you got the Chiefs at 6. I mean, listen, they got the win. Still, the receivers are dropping passes. Mahomes was not happy on the sideline when Tony, again, the ball gets knocked up in the air because he can't hold on to it and it gets picked off. It's a problem. Definitely a problem. Then the top 5 is the Eagles. Yeah, I mean, they're continuing their free fall right now. Their defenses, I mean, the secondary just let the Seahawks go right down the field. I mean, they've lost 3 straight now. Jalen Hurts is turning the ball over. It's not looking good right now for the Eagles. Then you got the Dolphins at 4. They got back to their winning ways against the Jets. Now you got the big game against the Cowboys, who are at 3. I mean, right now I think the Cowboys, you still put them ahead of these teams. I mean, they're still a top 5 team. It's just they got blown out against the Bills. And then obviously the top 2, you got the Ravens at 2 and the Niners at 1. So I mean, I can't disagree with that. But now you got these 2 teams playing each other on Christmas, so that will tell us how these teams stack up against each other. So before I go into we go into our second break of the show, once again, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, I will get into talking about the quarterback of the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers. I'll get into that. And what his plans are, where he's at, and what I think is going to happen moving forward. So that is what we will talk about when we come back from our second break of the show. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.